Hello, everyone. Hi. Nice to see you by faith again. Listen, today we're gonna have a lot of fun because I have a guest on with me that honestly, even me, I haven't really caught up with my brother here for. It's been so long. I haven't even counted. It's been years.
Yeah,
But we've
but
got brother Izwe on here, and I am firstly, Izwe, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it's awesome, man. Sorry, forgive me, man. What is your last name again? I spaced now.
sorry, dude. Is Izwe Nkosi,
Oh man,
Nkosi.
it
So yeah, it's a very easy name if you're South African because you get to sing it in your national anthem,
no,
and you
but
get
okay, but so tell people because okay, well, because I'm Nkosi, like doesn't that what does that mean? Does that's a what does that mean?
Nkosi is a Zulu. It's a Zulu name. It's a Zulu. It's a Nguni name, which means it could be king or it could be lord.
Oh,
So
oh,
it could be king or lord. So Nkosi king or lord, but not. Like mostly, probably I would go for more King, Ngosi King, because of
oh.
it comes from the Swati origins, if you like. So yeah, Ngosi King, basically. So
Oh
there
man.
you are.
Now, let me. I want to introduce you just a little bit more, just because we've got friends watching from well all over the planet these days.
Yeah.
It's people all over. So I just want to explain where we met and where I
Yes.
know him from because I'm. Well, you guys know I'm South African. Met my wife. Iswa, you probably don't even know this. My wife is American, man. Like,
All right.
yeah,
I
yeah.
no, I have listened to some of your stuff, obviously in preparation for this and other things I've seen on Facebook. I didn't assume she was South African. Her accent gave it away. Yeah, no, her accent gave it away, and your kids as well. So you're absolutely good, man. Yeah,
So let me so me and Izwe yeah, let me just mention we met on a missionary ship called the Doulos. It's not
yes,
going anymore. It got too old, but it was like a missionary ship where people go as well, you go as a missionary basically, but it's people from basically 50 countries roughly, and it's like a community of roughly 300 people roughly. Iswe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I
yeah,
remember. Roughly 50 countries, 300 people. You're all on a ship for 2 years. two
yeah,
years that's your home. So and both of us are South African, so that's where we met
yeah.
from this ship. So but now so Iswe, tell me because honestly, this is going to be just for interest's sake. We actually haven't stayed in contact. So what happened after the ship, if I may ask?
Well, for me, when we went, obviously we were on the ship and we joined in South Africa, traveled through Southeast Asia and the surrounding African islands, and then we finished in Hong Kong. So we finished in Hong Kong, and then after we finished in Hong Kong, um, I was invited to come to England with my then girlfriend, obviously now wife, Anne, and so I came to meet her family and all the rest of it. And yeah, and then we went back. We stayed here for quite a few weeks, and then after that, I went back home. I went back to South Africa, and obviously we did that long distance dating malarkey, if as you can imagine, for a few years. And after that, after she left, after I went back to South Africa, then we took things a little bit further. We took things a bit further, and I mean, we've known each other for quite a while. Then we joined the ship at the same time, etc., etc. And after that, after we dated for a little bit, Anne came to visit me down in South Africa, and she stayed there for quite a while. I think she stayed there for about a couple of months, if not 3 months. She stayed there, and then we came back. We came back together, and we came back together for quite a while, and then got engaged, and Um, 18 years later now. Yeah, 18 years later, two kids and about a dozen moves in between. So there we
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So it's been a fun, wild, interesting, interesting time. But to be entirely honest with you, since we are having this really openly, honest conversation, the ship was a really, really mixed. It was a mixed bag for me.
Mm,
Uh, I think quite a lot about it, and I just get asked this: would I ever do it again? I am grateful for that time. I am super grateful because of it has exposed me to a it has exposed me to an awful lot of cultural experiences that I would otherwise not have had, if you know what I mean. I got to see some incredible places and did got to do some incredible things that I would not have done otherwise. But I yeah, the ship was a very difficult one for me. I don't know if it is something that I would want to do again or I would be willing to do again. But yeah, but I'm grateful I did it. But if would I want to do it again? No, no, I wouldn't want to do it. Would I go back? I probably wouldn't either. So, um, for just for an awful lot of really deep personal uh, reflections on it all. I mean, it was great. Do not get me wrong. It doesn't
yeah.
take away the fact that it was an absolutely phenomenal time. But would I want to do it again? I probably not. No, I would not want to do it again. I would not want to do that again. I think about it fondly, but it's not something I would really want to repeat. I've learned quite a lot. I've grown quite a lot. There is
Mm.
so many things that I have experienced there, like I said, that I would not otherwise have experienced. But upon reflection and upon quite an awful lot of deep searching, it was good, but it was also a very very difficult time. Just challenging time in so many ways, as I'm sure you can imagine. But
Well,
grateful I did it.
but I appreciate you like being honest because I mean, dude, I totally I hear you, and it wasn't all fun and games as I
No.
as it so but I think but I like what you mentioned about like look like you there's been a lot of growth
Yeah.
from the ship time like you mentioned. That's like, boy, I mean, I finished in February 2007 on the ship. When did you finish, man?
I finished in September 2007, I think, the same year. Yeah,
Okay. E-
September. So I finished in September. So I
right.
finished in September of the same year, basically, as you did.
Yeah. Well, and so let's you know what, because you mentioned about growth, let's I want to go there, but before we go to your growth from after the ship, if I may just ask, man, and this is gonna I'm looking forward to even hearing you talk, because the cool thing is I haven't asked, I honestly don't know these
Yeah,
um things about you, so I'm totally loving getting to know you a little bit better.
that's
So
awesome, dude. Yeah.
yeah, so tell me salvation, because I love this question, because to me every person's story of just coming to Jesus, is so like unique. And you get such extremes, so
Mm.
so for you, man, what was that like?
For me, I think it was quite an experience. It's coming to Jesus. Like, do you know there are some decisions in your life you think about where you are at the moment, you think about, and then everything else that you've ever done, you've ever become, that you've ever experienced traces back to that one single decision that you ever made. So for me, that is what salvation and being saved and meeting Jesus really means. It every single decision, every single thing that I am right now, in every single sense of those words, every single thing that I am, where I live, who I live with, my kids, my life, my work, my literally every single aspect of who I am, it comes down to the decision that I made as a teenage boy growing up in the South African township, to follow Jesus. It was sort of like, once I understood and got overwhelmed by the love of Jesus, it literally changed everything, including the very words that I'm speaking to you right now. Every single decision that I have ever made, or everything that has become what I am right now, all of it traces back to that one single decision of my response to understanding and knowing God's love for my life. And, the whole trajectory of my life just changed on those bases. I know it's so cliche to say my life changed because I meet Jesus. No, no, I mean, literally, my whole life turned upside down, literally upside down, like literally upside down. Like you couldn't get any more upside down than what Jesus did with my life. Um, yeah, it comes from that place. As you know, I grew up in a township. It's a township in Pretoria. Well, we call it a township in Pretoria, but we are nowhere anything like Pretoria. It doesn't look, feel, taste, or resemble anything like Pretoria for people who have been to Pretoria. It's a township right on the very outskirts of Pretoria. It's as far north of Pretoria as you can get. That's where the township is situated. They call it Pretoria on the basis that we share the same postcode, but we are nothing like Pretoria. We don't, Pretoria, the central people think, oh, this beautiful, massive. No, I'm talking about, like a really proper, I'm a really proper township boy, like who grew up in a township. So yeah, so like a friend, a buddy of mine who was also my neighbor, met Jesus. This guy, his name was Joseph Rabutata. He met Jesus as I was a teenager. I think I was just about to start middle school, and he invited me to youth. He invited me to youth, and I don't know, it was just an incredible place to be, and I got to go there, and I went once and I kept going back and going back and going back, and sort of like this whole thing really took hold of me. It's sort of like, Jesus's love took hold of me because of Jesus's love was something that I saw in other people.
Mm.
Do you know when you see people demonstrate Jesus in a way that you would like to experience him? I experienced something that I would like other people to experience when they meet me, when I met these people. And
Yeah.
so it became this glorious experience where I was like, yeah, do you know what? I wanted this, and it was quite meaningful because of, like I said, growing up in a township, you are exposed to so many things growing up, things that are part of normalcy, I suppose, but that's not very normal. But then you don't get to have these perspectives when you live there. You get these perspectives when you get out of that environment. Not get out of that environment, because it's not an environment I want to get out of, because it's not bad, but it's only a perspective you get to see when you are looking from the outside looking in. It's not a bad place, because I've got no bad word to say about growing up in the township. I absolutely loved it. But then, but as well as that, the reality is it was not the easiest of places to grow, because of, as you understand, for people who are not South African, you know what a township is. A township, it's where the old government apartheid regime, they put all the black people in these secluded places, and they call them townships. And one of the township that I lived in, it's a township called Soshanguve. It's quite weird because it's Soshanguve, but it's so cool how it gets its name. It's the first letter of every single language that is spoken in that township. So they took the first letters, and all those first letters, they made the name of the
Huh.
township. So it's Soshanguve, Sotu Shangani, Nguni, and Venda. So it's sort of
Wow.
like it's quite a really cool. It was an absolutely lovely place, and I get goosebumps every time I have to go back there, because of there is something quite meaningful about living there. But then the challenges were real, life was real, and you just like when you grow up, you just needed a way of dealing with the realities of growing, as I suppose everybody does wherever they grow. but he just needed ways to find to try and navigate life as it was where you grew up. And I didn't have those mechanisms, and I just did not understand the whole concept of love and being loved, because you grew up in the township, you're raised by really you are raised by people who grew up mostly through the apartheid regime. So
Mm.
you are raised by a very traumatized generation, and you know what trauma is like. Um, Trauma sort of like it's passed on, if you know what I mean. And so we were raised by traumatized people to
Yeah.
be traumatized, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
And when you grow under those circumstances, you need to find ways. You need to find I don't know. You just need to find mechanisms, and then you are just aware of how much of those coping mechanisms you haven't got, and you are desperate for anything that will help you through grow and navigate some of that trauma with very traumatized parents. And for me, once I found Jesus, it was almost having found a pressure release valve, or not when I found Jesus, but when Jesus found me. It was more like this. It was a release in a way. It was a release because of I could, um, in moments of desperations, I had a place to go to. I had a God to go to, and I had, I had prayer. I had prayer as a way of communicating to God, communicating my heart, speaking my heart, being honest with how I felt, being honest with how I and there's an awful lot you could say because of some of the difficulties or some of the traumas or some of the most painful things that have happened in South Africa. Whether most of us like to admit it or not, a lot of it has happened as a result of religion or in the name of God,
Yeah.
in the name of God. So you have to understand how deep that ran because of you grow up and then you start understanding. Oh, hang on, people hated me because of they considered me to be less of a human being, to be
Y-
less lovable,
Yeah.
to be so less, to be undesirable. So those things are not just labels that are that are thrown at you. Those are labels that kind of stick. And you just sort of like you just need a uh, you need something really deep and very fundamental, something that is going to restructure not only just how you do life, but how you think about doing life. And for me that was Christ Himself. For me, that was Christ Himself. For me, one of the most earliest verses I've ever read is in the book of Hebrews, where the author of the book of Hebrews says, "For we do not have a high priest who does not know how to empathize with us in our infirmities, but He Himself was tempted in every way and was found to be without sin." So, okay, we have a high priest who does not know how to empathize with us, and I've always found that quite interesting because of some version says who sympathizes with us, and some version says empathize. But I'm I got to understand that actually, if you were to look at, for me, the way I think about it, he does not sympathize, he empathizes. Because of to sympathize with somebody, it means you are feeling sorry, looking, by being on the outside looking in.
Y-
That is to sympathize. You just looking, from the outside, but you
mm.
really don't understand what it
Yeah.
is, what it feels like. But the word empathize, it means that I am in the thick of it with you. It's not something. It's not something I'm looking at you go through. It's something that I am going through with you. It's that analogy of when they say, um, if you are in the hole, if you fall in the hole and somebody looks at you and they feel sorry for you,
Y-
they are sympathizing with you. They do not
mm.
know what it is like to be in the hole.
Right.
But when somebody sees you in the hole and jumps in the hole, then they empathize with you. They get to feel your feelings. They get to touch you. They get to see it directly in your face. So I think when I understood that, we do not have a high priest who does not know how to empathize with us. In other words, there is nothing that we get to go through. He does not know what it is like to go through. So, and for me, that was sort of like a life changer because of you needed that kind of understanding in order to understand that. whilst most of these horrors were done in the name of God, God was not in any way, shape, or form part of it, or allowing it, or taking pleasure in all of it. It was just human beings being human beings being manipulative, human beings taking advantage of other human beings
Yeah.
on the basis of how much melanin they have in their bodies. So, um, but 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 meeting Jesus has just changed. Like I said, it's not like a change of, oh, I'm changed by grace. No, no, it's an absolute 360 turnaround. It's like he challenges how you think about your mindset. He challenges your place in society. He challenges you know, your place in just life as a whole. It's like, you know, like, let's do this and see. Jesus did an awful lot to Jesus did an awful lot of work in me, I think, and he continues to. But um yeah, so salvation for me, it was a it was a complete change. It was a complete reimagination of what life looked like. So for me, when I say Jesus changed my life completely. It's not a sentimental statement. It's not a statement that sounds good to say. It is a reality. It is, for me, it is a reality that I live every single day. When I say Jesus changed my life, it's a reality I live in. It's
Mm.
that is as real for me as the very air that the very air that I breathe. So it's real. It was love. It was love in its purest form that really changed the whole trajectory of my whole life, literally.
Man. Now, Izwe, you mentioned something. If I may ask you, man, or I wanted to ask you because I am curious. I'm going to refer to the ship again because what I want to ask you is your journey. Because like your journey from you. It seems like you received Jesus as a teenager at the youth
Yeah,
type thing. But then, it was a few years, and then you're going on the ship. But just to mention for the folks who might not understand the whole ship concept, that you had to raise support. So you had to
yeah,
like you go out there, um, ask people to support you financially, and you're trusting God to to touch hearts. It's a if you've never, I mean, I'm saying this with respect, but it's like it's one of those things. If you've never done it, it's you sort of while you do it, you're like, wow, like it's a very humbling thing.
it is. Yeah,
So if I
yeah,
if I can ask you your journey, because I bet that there was a couple of hurdles in your way, like needing to trust God for to raise the finances for
yeah,
you to go on that ship. It's like, just again, you don't get paid on the ship. You people support you financially to go
yeah.
serve on this ship. It's a Christian ship. It's very different. So was there a couple of hurdles, man, for you on the way?
Trying to raise a few thousand pounds in the township where everybody was trying to get by. Yeah, it was a bit challenging, to be honest. Um, the thing is with my journey. With this is probably where my journey is going to be a little bit different to most people that were on the ship. I was actually I was a youth leader in my church who was just transitioned into becoming a youth pastor very early on, and we had a the OM, you know, the because of you had to do training first, did you, with at Bosch Corp. So we had to do training, and one of the last mission things that they did when we did training was to do this massive outreach, and you had the Gauteng outreach, you have the Western Cape, Eastern Cape outreach, and you had all these kind of outreaches. So we hosted a team in our church during the Gauteng outreach, and
Oh,
this team was obviously coming from Bushcop, which was part of their training to sort of like have this experience with a local church and do missions locally to wherever the church is. And we hosted one of the teams there, and when we hosted the team, we it was quite fun. I don't know if you remember the guy. I don't know if you remember these two individuals, Peter van Veek and Diana Arenze.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
the two of them, they came. I was still in high school, I think. They came. They came to our church, and we had organized all these incredible outreaches and youth events and all these things where we're doing all these. And I got on really well with them, Diana Renza and Peter van Beek. We really, really got on, and because of I was technically hosting them in a way because just because of the way the dynamics of our church were at the time.
Yeah.
And they said to me, yeah, we just during those down times in the outreaches, you get to sit down and have some, just some really cool conversations, and you get to ask people how they ended up where they are, and they started talking to me about all of this OM things, and I was, oh, that is really cool. That's very, very interesting. It sounds quite fun, but obviously we must have left an impression on each other in a way because of then the following year they did the Western Cape Challenge, which was is it so Eastern Cape, just around the Cape Town, around the Cape Town region, and they did the same outreach for it, but it was the next lot of other trainees. Diana Renzi and Peter van Beek had all gone by the time. So I went there. It was my last year. It was my last year of high school. I went there, and but I did not actually go there. I was invited there to come because of whatever it is that they went and told, whatever they told people, what their experiences of what we did together and all that. And they were like, "Oh, let's invite this guy." And so they invited me to come to the Western Cape. And so my church at the time released me to go there. And I met, I met, I met another woman who just literally just changed my life in an absolutely fantastic way, called Janice Taylor. I still get to see her. Janice Taylor. She did quite a few trainings at Bosch Corp actually. Yeah, she did quite a few trainings, and she was like, so I was on her team when I was there. So I was on the team. So we've been hosted by another church, and we had an absolute blast. It was so fantastic. It was
Hmm.
really, really good. And then we came back, and obviously, me and Jenny Taylor, we had conversations during the down times, as you always do. And she was like, "Hey, do you wanna?" I think you'd be good if you went and did the training, the missions training with Boschkop and type of thing.
Nice.
So my church agreed to sort of like sponsor me for that because of my pastor. She was very keen on missions, Pastor
Hmm.
Lydia. She was quite keen on missions. She understood the concept. She understood. I think I did missions, but I did it locally, so I didn't consider it missions at the time because of it was just something that we did then locally in the township type deal. But I didn't think about it in the same scale that they thought about missions is something you can go do. I think, yeah, whatever we called it then, but it was technically missions. So um, I met her, and she was like, "You, I really think you should consider coming to do training at you know, at the OM Bush Corp." And
Hmm.
and for some reason, my church agreed to do it, and Janice helped me raise support, actually, I think. Yeah, Janice, if I remember correctly, Janice helped me raise some support, and she wanted me to be there because of, let's face it, I was not going to, it wasn't gonna be, it wasn't in a way that I don't know if most people would understand, but I couldn't justify go to a township where people could barely get by. I could not justify go to the church and say to them, "Can you support me, even if it was for missions? Can you support me to go to missions and have people?" For me, that did not sit right with me, and I just couldn't justify it in my head. And I couldn't justify it, and two, I simply knew that it would have been a tall ask. Maybe not in the same way that all these other Europeans and other people would. It would have been for them. I just that for me, it was just too big of a it was just too much to ask. And luckily, Janice, when I explained this to you, I said, "Look, I don't feel like it's something I can. It's not something I really can do. The township, it's a very different way. I just could not. I mean, you can't go to people who are barely getting by and say to you, 'Hey, support me. I want to go on a mission field and give me money.' No, I couldn't do that. So Janice, like, you know, thankfully, she helped raise some money, and my church agreed to pay a certain amount, and so that's literally how I managed to go. So I had half a. Was I interested in going there? Maybe not, but it's something I prayed really hard about, and it felt right. It felt like something that God was calling me to do at the time.
Wow.
And in obedience, I kind of like did, and I almost did not go, almost did not go, but yeah, so I almost did not go. It came to a like it came so close to me not going, and it's amazing when you look at it. It's amazing when you look at how God works. It's like it came so close to me not going, and I went, and like I said, there is so many good things that good and challenging and learning experiences that I would not otherwise have come to know or come to be had I not done that. So yeah, so that's how I ended up on the ship and got to know some incredible people and got to be got to be here really. To this very moment, this very moment it still traces to that very time.
But
It's
that's why I wanted to ask eh, because look at how amazing God provided for you
yeah, yeah,
to to for you, and you're even saying like, I mean, it's one of those where um you couldn't see it. I'm talking about back then, when you were sort of in the beginning. There were probably moments where you were like, I might not even see, like, how are you gonna you have there's a threshold, there's a sort of
yeah,
a minimum amount that every person needs to get support in before you can go. So
yeah,
I'm sure you must have been like, how in the world, like, I don't even know how that's gonna happen. But
yeah.
then, but if you know what I mean. In
No,
from
no,
from your perspective, it's almost like I don't see a way. But then here we are, like,
yeah,
years later, and we're talking about the goodness of God, because we're talking
yeah,
about how God made a way through people, which
mm,
so often God, like, flows through people whose hearts are
yeah,
sensitive to Him, and
yeah,
flows through
yeah,
people and created a way. You got
mm,
to go and look at. You say it traces back to your relationship with Jesus. You got to go, and it wasn't. I mean, look at how it influenced your life. You met your wife on the ship. I mean,
yeah, yeah, quite.
and here you are. You're living in the UK somewhere. I don't even ask you where.
Yeah,
Where are you based, man?
yeah. I live in the UK. I live in England in a play in a county called Surrey. It's I live in the UK in a county called Surrey in Guildford. So
Okay, okay.
yeah,
So I just mean, like, look at um that's why I like these questions, these answers, because for me we're talking about the goodness of God. Like,
yeah.
it's a pretty extraordinary testimony of God
No,
making a way. So which makes me think of you mentioned when you kind of like you were using the word, you discovered the love of God, the love of Jesus. When I asked you
yeah,
about the journey of salvation for you, receiving Jesus, you were mentioning there about, um okay, you discovered something about Jesus' love for you. Okay.
yeah,
So what I want to ask you is, um you discovered this love then, um but I also want there's a two-part question. Yeah, because firstly I want to ask you, like, what was that first discovery of, like, that first, just you discovering his love for you firstly, but then now you're like years in. How do you, like, sort of like live in his love even today, like, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, all right. So to answer your first part, depending on what your upbringing is, and depending on what your experience of the word love is, and obviously that is going to be strongly tied to your parents and how they demonstrate that, how they show that. It is going to define what love is for you, whether you like it or not, whether it's something you want to, whether you like it or not. our upbringing is always going to define and it's going to shape what we believe love to be, and that is obviously going to determine how we go forward to express that in how we live. So for me, the whole concept of love was a very weird one. Like I said, you can imagine being raised by the kind of parents who have raised me, who have perhaps not experienced love, or their experience of love is something that is completely different to maybe how I express love to my own kids. I think it was very difficult. I mean, there was no "I love you," there was no hugs. I mean, even now when I go back home, like I try to go back home once or twice a year, and on one of those trips, I'll fly back home with my kids and
Mm.
or with my whole family. To this very day, it absolutely horrifies my wife and my kids because my mom and I and maybe my siblings, but me and my mom, we don't hug. There is no this whole thing of hugging and whereas my kids would hug my mom and my wife would hug my mom. But
Oh,
for us and my upbringing, that kind of love, it never really it never was there. So my understanding of love as growing up as a kid watching all these black and white TVs, it's like the word love, most of the times we heard it, we knew what it meant, but the way we understood it was how Hollywood expressed it to us through the medium of television. So love was an absolutely really weird concept for me to even begin to fathom. And I know for a lot of people, especially people who grew up in a European context or in a loving family context, that would sound quite bizarre. Not that my parents did not love me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying their way of expressing that
yeah.
love is so completely different. And because it's not something we grew up hearing, it's not something we always associated with care and love and all of that in the same way that perhaps most people who are going to get a chance to listen to this would. But so that was quite weird. But there was always something inside of me that was lacking, and I think the only way I could understand it is because of it was such a deep hunger, such a deep desire. And I always say this even to this day. I think that when God created human beings, He left a void in them that only He can fill, like nothing else can fill, that only He can fill. And you might not know what it is, but there's always something inside of your soul, in the very core of your soul, that you cannot even begin to put in words, but you just know that it's
Mm.
there.
Mm.
And nothing else can fill it. All the stuff you try to fill it with, it doesn't. All those typical things that we try to fill it with never do. And even at the young age, I still knew that. I still knew there was something lacking, but there seemed to be nothing that fulfilled it. And it wasn't until it wasn't until I gave my life to Jesus that I understood that really the thing that I desperately needed the most was that love thing. Was that love thing? Was that love thing? I think that void that existed in me, it was a desire not only to be loved, because of we can only think. Sometimes we can really define love in a selfish way, in a way that if we don't feel it, it can be something that we want to feel. But for me, it wasn't just something that I wanted to feel, but it was something that I wanted to express as well. So there
Mm.
was a hunger for it, and there was
Mm.
a hunger to express it. And for me, I found great. In fact, I could argue to say I found much more deep meaning in my ability to now be able to express love and receive love. And I just think that void, that's what existed. So my whole concept of love was redefined. It wasn't just something that I needed, but it was something that I needed to express
Mm.
as well as have it expressed towards me. So yeah, that's when love began to really really make sense. So it's quite odd. Like even though I mean my parents loved me, but they just or they our parents loved us, but they loved us the only way they knew how. I
Yeah.
think they loved us the only way that they knew how, and the only way you know how it's how it was done to you. So um yeah, so meeting Jesus and really growing to understand what really love is. Love is good, love is wonderful, love is all of those things that we ascribe it to, but love is also quite painful. That is also quite painful because of it requires you sacrifice something. It requires you give something up. In fact, that is the only characteristics of love that really does exist, is that it requires you to give something up that is perhaps of far more meaning. So you can gain something that is far more superior than what you are holding on to. So Jesus is the perfect example of that. He gave up everything that he could have given up, in order to love. In order to love, it is not as complicated as we might want to make it to sound, but everything happened only simply on the basis of those love. So for me, um coming to that decision, I came to that decision because of it. It was at that moment where I understood why that void existed in me in the first place, and you know and it was just filled by the person who actually made it to be there in the first place. So
And that's awesome. So and then if the second part of the question
yeah.
is I want to ask you, because this thing about I just want to ask you sort of like a little bit of your process. When I say process, I simply mean like sort of, the things that that you do to keep receiving. You know what I mean? Because we're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about when you received Jesus initially. That's many years ago, and so
Mhm.
now, as in literally, like, for example, today, what's the date? This is the 15th of July. So if we were like, listen, Izwe, you woke up this morning. I don't know if you use an alarm or not, whatever, but you woke up and you were like, okay, like, I want to like continue in receiving the love of Jesus today. Do you see what I'm saying? What is
I get
what is
you.
I'm just asking, what's a little bit of your process, because I believe that this can help people to
Yeah.
also walk in this love.
Well, look, it's the way I think about it, it's very important to create rhythms. It's important to have rhythms because of it's like just like any other thing. We are not called into discipline, we are called into relationship, but in order for relationship to function, there's got to be a level of some kind of discipline. Even though discipline is not the only thing we are called to, I think there has got to be um, things that you are going to incorporate in your life that will help you to nourish your spirit and grow. And one of the privileges of one of the most amazing things I get to be part of is I am part of a prayer movement down here. It's a global movement. It's called the 24/7 prayer movement. 24/7 prayer is this massive movement which has got, it's almost in every single continent now. I think just about in every single continent, and it is an incredible. And we have become, it has become a place where there's a lot of resources. It helps people do with resources and stuff. And one of the things that we do a daily devotional app, which
Mm,
is listened to by about 350,000 people on, like a day, basically every day, 350,000 people listen. It's called the Lectio 365.
mm,
It's like a 10, 11 minute. You can download it in any app store. And then it helps me. It's got rhythms in it. It's got a daily rhythm of how you pray, daily verses, and it helps you, meditate. So it's actually, we have launched it. When we first came out, we were doing the morning prayers, the morning devotions, but then it sort of like grew and grew, and as it grew, the vision and the need for it. So we started this thing where we did. In fact, we did it the other way around. It was morning, and then it became the evening. We did the evening where, yeah, the last thing you do, it could be like an evening devotion before you go to bed, and you
yeah.
can. So now we have created, and then now so they've created another section in the day which is called midday prayer. So
Mm,
the Lectio 365 morning app, it's like a way of, it's just like it recenters you. It's a way of meditation, of spiritual godly meditation, meditating upon God's word, meditating upon what God might be saying to you. It's a way of starting the day. It's one of those things that you do in the morning with your cup of coffee type of thing before the day gets crazy. So I'm more into that rhythm, really into that rhythm of just having a devotional, just really having a meaningful devotional. Um, I think it's just a resource that is there that helps you to start your day, that helps you to start your day well with prayer. With there are some rhythms, there are some ways of doing things. So it focuses. So we do a lot of series there and all this, and it's got different hosts every week and different people reading scripture and stuff. So I have so I do that. It's my
Yeah.
way of recentering myself to the goodness of God just by having a really good devotional time. It's not about the devotion, but it's about who I do it for. It's about God. So I try to start my day in a way that puts God at the center of what I try to do. And we did it, and it's on purpose that it's only 10 minutes and all this because you know how busy everybody is. And it's like prayer doesn't all, and in all reality, in all honesty, people are so busy. And one of the things that tends to get out of the window when we are busy is the most important things, like spending time with God. And so this is just a devotional app that you can use three times a day that
Mm.
reminds you of not only who you are but whose you are.
Oh,
In the busyness and the chaos of the day. You know what it is like. You've lived in America and I lived in England. Everything here is going at 1.4 million miles per hour, and it is so good to just sort of like find those things. And here is another fascinating one. One of the things. Bro, I have a hobby of gardening. I have a hobby of horticulture. I've developed this incredible weird hobby that where I absolutely love gardening, and I know it's gonna sound really weird, but gardening has been one of the most spiritual things I've ever done. It's been one of the things that has reconnected me to God in a way that I've never done. Like I said,
wow.
in a world where everybody's going at 1,000,000.5 thousand miles per hour, we get out of sync with who we are. We are going at the people are rushing. We're going like emails have to be replied to yesterday. Deadlines have to be met. Yesterday, and all of these things. And in a world that is going so fast, you need things that will remind you at the
Mm.
pace which you are designed to function at. And I have found that gardening it slows me down. Gardening is one of those things that allows me to be present in a way that nothing else can. And I find that some of my best prayers, some of the best things I have had God say to me, it is when I'm in the process of gardening, when the world shuts and I'm able to focus on just gardening and looking at plants. And I read up on a lot of plants and I study plants and I look all of the. I find it all fascinating, but it is its ability to slow me down. And just as a way, and I've done a little bit of research and digging to really try and understand why gardening makes me feel the way I do if I was the only person and I joined these gardening forums. And even people who are not Christians, they have found that gardening is low. In fact, there is actual scientific research that has
Mm.
come out in England where they say, um, with all this mental health crisis going on around the world. In fact, they've done a study that shows that when you gardening literally being in nature, walking in nature, engaging with nature, touching the soil with your hands as you garden, they have actually found that it does actually genuinely relieve you of stress. It releases the same amount of um, what is that chemical that is responsible for
Uh,
our
yeah, what is it? Is it
um,
endorphins or dopamine or
yeah, dopamine and all of those good chemicals that our body finds when we
yeah.
do when we eat chocolates and all those things. They found that it actually does exactly the same. It releases all those chemicals because it's a way. It's just recent, and it's incredible. Some of the prayers you can pray in the garden, especially as you get to have and it makes sense because it makes sense. Look at scripture itself. Our story as human beings, as we know it, as we know and as we understand it, according to scripture, it starts in the garden. And then our first sin where we fall apart, the best relationship we ever had with God was in the sphere of gardening when we were
Yeah.
surrounded by nature and by plants. And that's where we fall. And look at where our redemption begins. Look at the New Testament where our redemption begins. Our redemption, the story of our redemption, it sort of like begins in the Garden of Gethsemane. And you look at some of the descriptions of John in the book of Revelation when he describes heaven, the garden is also mentioned. And it's very interesting because of um you look at Matthew chapter 5. Jesus uses five parables, and out of those five parables, four of them they are garden related. You know, the seed
Yeah.
and the sower, the weeds, and all of those things. That is a horticultural metaphor which is meant to explain a deep heavenly or you know kingdom truth,
It,
basically.
it compares the kingdom to these
Yeah.
agricultural, like you're saying. It's yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. John chapter 15, verse 1. I am the true
I'm
vine,
the
and
vine.
my father
Yeah.
is the one.
Yeah.
He's the gardener. And it was quite interesting because of when you read some of the theological things, the word paradise, as we understand it in scripture, every time you see the word paradise in scripture, paradisio, literally that word, it literally means garden.
That's right.
Paradisio. When Jesus said to the man on the cross that tonight you will be with me in paradise, he literally meant you will be with me in the garden. So,
Hmm.
like for me, and then it's like you just have to wonder what is it about this space? What is it about this space of nature that is so significant that it keeps popping up in all of the most significant moments of our faith in all of the people. I mean, look at the Psalms, man. The Psalms are just full of horticultural metaphors. Look at all of these things, and then you will sort of like begin. So for me, that is one of the that is my best prayer room, my best prayer space for me has just simply become my garden. How
Hmm.
when I observe plants, the way plants grow, the way they do things, there is so many truths in the garden that happen in the garden that can be applied in my own life. I mean, we have a God of heaven who has created all of us to be so different. You know, God has created us to be also diverse and so unique because of He's the gardener. And in the same way that a gardener doesn't plant just one plant, he plants different, diverse plants to bring beauty. So beauty comes from difference. Beauty comes from diversity. So
Diversity.
that speaks into so many things that because of if you had one of the same thing, then you will whatever it is that you have will be so boring. But if you diversify it, if it becomes more than just one thing, more than just one color, then it becomes beauty. So beauty is found in the multiples of differences. So God made us different to show his splendor and his beauty. And for some reason, we have taken our differences and we've made them the reason to bash each other with. And it's just the most bizarre thing. It is just the most bizarre thing ever. So
Yeah.
for me, it's quite poignant. It's like so this app I'm telling you about, which is the Lakeview 365, it helps me. It helps me have a devotion and coming back into my garden and observing nature and being in nature and allowing nature to soak inside of me. I did something recently where um, I said, I don't just look after my garden, but my garden looks after me because of
Yeah.
God lives in it. So it's a so for me, those are they are the most simple and basic way. It's not really rocket science. At the very core of it, it is the most simplest things that we do that will always reconnect us and then bring us to the real reality of who Jesus is and what He has done for
Mm.
us. So for me, those are the two things. It's probably quite a very long, waffly answer, but it's
No, but I love it because it's actually look that's what I like about what you're saying is because you know we are just so different and we're get, but it's like it can be simple things for different people to just help us to
yeah,
slow us down, help us to get our eyes on Jesus. I mean, that's like for you. for you to be like to get in that garden space, listen, if that makes you like get your eyes on Jesus, then it's like
Yeah,
then that's it, man. Then let's jump in the
that's it,
garden.
dude.
Like it's so good.
That's it. That's it, dude. But it's the things you observe, it's the things you begin to understand, it's the things you is the things you allow yourself. It's like some of my best prayers is like when I like when you're weeding. It's like one of the things, one of my practices is when I'm weeding stuff that's growing in places that I don't want it to grow. It's like one of the prayers I've learned is Lord, Lord, as I'm weeding these things, what is it that is growing in my heart that's not meant
Mm,
to be there? Would
mm.
you please help me with the power of your spirit as I weed these things? Would you please help me to weed out all those attitudes, all those characters, all those behaviors, all those sins and all those thoughts and all those negativity. Would you help me weed it out, Lord? Let it get out of the fertile soil of my mind and my heart because of I want you and you alone to put what's right there, to put the right character, the right attitude, all of those things, and show me how I can nourish them to grow. And that is just one aspect of looking at it. It's very meditative. It's a way of emptying myself of something so that God can come in and inhabit all of that space. And it's it is quite yeah, it's for me that's for me, dude, it's how it works. It's look, again, it's not simple. It's really simple. God doesn't require you to spend 25 hours in prayer. I would rather pray a 3 minute meaningful prayer than pray a 5 hour prayer that is full of words but deprived of meaning.
I
Okay.
mean, Jesus said hypocrites love to pray. What did he say? Didn't he
Yeah.
say like the
Yeah.
hypocrites they love to pray?
Yeah, they like to stand in the temple courts and raise their voices and pray out loud. And it's always the simple. It's always the simple stuff. You see, the thing is, we always think that God is in all this. It's in all this big stuff. We always think that God is always in the. My pastor Pete Gregg, he says that. If you're only waiting to see God in the big things, you're gonna wait for a long time. But if
Mm.
you if you appreciate and wait in the small things, you are always going to be eternally
Oh,
grateful because of
woo!
it's in those small things. It's in
Oh,
those God exists in those small moments. And I love experiencing God in the small
oh
moments
my
because of
goodness.
that
Listen,
that's where he lives.
you, I'm just. Can you? Okay, I'm literally. Hang on. Oh my goodness, I am literally having okay, I'm not like the biggest like like all these things, but I literally got goosebumps when you said that because
Yeah,
um that's powerful.
yeah.
That is powerful.
It
That is
really is.
powerful.
Yeah.
If you remember, if you could hug your pastor for me,
Yeah.
just tell him from your South African bro down there.
I
No,
will.
because that was powerful. That
Yeah.
was powerful. You said like if you're waiting to only see God in the big things, you're gonna wait like a long time. But if you can, what did you say? If you can sort of see God in the small things, what did you say
You're gonna
then?
be eternally grateful. I'm sort of like
Oh,
paraphrasing what he said, but he said something along those lines. Yeah, because of sometimes we just want the big things to happen. We wanna see massive things, but God exists in the simplicity of life. We always miss God in the simple, mundane things because of we are expecting to see Him in the big stuff. But he's you will find Him more frequent in the small stuff than you would in the big stuff because of the big stuff. Let's face it, it doesn't happen all the time. But the small stuff, it is constantly there. And for me, I love him. I appreciate him more in the simplicity and the
mm,
complexity of a flower. The flower is so simple yet so complex, and it will stir gratitude inside of you. Just by looking at this simple, beautiful thing, that will stir some serious gratitude inside of you. But if you wait for the seas to part, yeah, first of all, you have to find the sea. But in the meantime, there is a flower where you can see the very face of the Almighty God Himself. and just for me, I get overwhelmed by simplicity and beauty. Simplicity and beauty that will stay, that will constantly push you on into a, yeah, it will spare you to live a life of gratitude. It's in the simple mundane things. It's not always the big things. It's the simple things. It's the simple things that forms habits. It's the simple
Mm,
things that form discipline. It's the simple thing, getting up every day or having a particular time of day, having a particular time in a day that you can dedicate to prayer. It's just flexing that muscle, just constantly just being grateful, living in gratitude, living in gratitude, living in
mm,
gratitude,
mm, mm.
living in gratitude.
So honestly, listen, we should land this plane just because it's wow. I mean, I can't. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm surprised at where the time's gone because I'm just digging this a lot. But let me just say, like, almost like for those of you watching, I want to encourage you with because what Izwe just shared just now. I mean, oh my goodness, like I love it so much. See, just quick Izwe, a theme that Jesus has given me. I believe He's given it to me because it resonates in my heart, man. Is this theme? It's on my social media channels or whatever, and the theme is enjoy Jesus today. You see,
yeah,
the third word is today,
yeah, yeah.
and
Now,
what you just said. That's
yeah,
why I asked the question. Is that's what
yeah,
I'm talking about? That is
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
That's
It
it.
is enjoying your relationship with Jesus, but it's today. It
Yeah,
is, and
now,
what you said, the small things, they are I mean, it's so good. So I just want to encourage whoever watching this, my brother or sister. I want to encourage you from what Izwe just now said. Look for look for Jesus' kindness. Look for His love in the ordinary, everyday,
yeah,
small things. Whether it's like getting your hands in the dirt, in the soil, planting something in the garden, or whatever that might be for you. But I want to encourage you, like, look for it because once you start sort of noticing what, I guess, once you start looking, you're going to start finding.
yeah.
You're going to start finding more and more, and
Oh yeah,
before you know it, you're going to have like 10 things that you're going to be like, Jesus showed me this, I saw Jesus, yeah. And guess what, the next day you might have 15 it's just, it's a being aware, looking for his love. And
yeah.
that's what I love what you said so much.
No, thanks,
So
dude.
that was so good. Listen, Israel, before we land this plane, may I pull up, is I mean, that the app thing that you mentioned, just for in case if someone wants to go find that.
Yeah,
How can I pull it up and show it on the screen? Is that okay?
yeah. Of course you can. Lecture 365. Yeah.
So how do you spell that if I were to pull up the website?
L
Yeah.
C L. It's sort of like this weird Latin word. Now, I write it all the time, and suddenly I have to go look it up. How
Oh,
how
okay,
how
okay,
weird. So
okay.
it's actually LE.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm here. Sorry, I'm. Whoops.
Hey bro, can you hear
Yep.
me?
There you are. There you are. Sorry, you just popped off, but I think you're back. You're back.
Hey dude. Sorry, let me write it for you. Have you got it? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
LECTIO
Three I
365.
3IO. So how would I three
No,
I
no, sorry. It's L Lima Echo Sierra Tango India Oscar
Okay, I'm actually looking it up here to see if I can
365. At the end is 365.
365. Okay, you know what? It I was googling it, but
Huh?
I probably didn't
Oh, sorry, not Sierra, Charlie, Charlie. Oh, dear. L, not S,
yeah. And then
LECTIO.
oh, TIO, sorry.
Yeah,
TIO.
some people say Lexio, some people say Lectio, and I just call it Lectio.
Here we go. Here we go. So
Lexio 365.
Lexio 365.
Yeah.
There. Lexio 365, 27 prayer, 24/7 prayer international. Um, this must be it. Let me just pull
Yeah,
this up.
it's
I'm gonna
gotta be
pull this
that one.
up and I'm gonna pull this up and see. Give me a moment. I'm gonna see if I can just put this on the screen here. I'm gonna do this. Lexio, this one, and um, okay. Can you see that?
Not yet. No, I can't.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Sorry. There. Let me try and see if I can make this full screen spotlight. Okay. Is
Yeah, that's it, dude.
is
That's
that
it.
it?
It's in the App Store. Yeah, you can find it in the App Store, whether it's Apple App Store or whatever the Android version of the App Store is. But
Yep.
yeah, you can find it there.
Right. But so this is it for those who are looking. This is the Lectio 365. Um, Okay, so I just wanted to share that just for in case if anyone wanted to check out that app that we spoke about, like for devotional and well, just again, just keeping meditating in God's word. Like this is what my brother was talking about, and so I just wanted to point that out there. So let me, okay, all right, and then we are. Yo, I can't. This is I'm just surprised at where the time is because this was so fun. Let
That's
me just
okay, dude.
let me just say a real quick. Let me just say a real quick. If any one of you out there um, wanted to show some love and appreciation for me, I'm not trying to sound weird. I'm just saying like if you wanted to get me one of these babies, look at that. That's my preferred drink. I just
Yeah,
wanted to mention you can go to the bio. It's there, and the page you'll see it. It's like a buy me a coffee if you would like, if you feel cheerful about it. Let me add that. If you feel cheerful, that's what I'm going to say about that. You'll find those links in the bio. And then let me just say hi to our brother Apostle Amos Ngosha has been joining us, and so I just wanted to
yeah.
say a shout out to our brother from Tanzania. I believe he popped on and watched. So good to see you, brother Amos. Um, all right, so Izwe, we let's land this plane. Big thank you, man. So
Thanks, buddy.
thank you so much. It was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I enjoyed it so much. I am surprised at the time. Sorry that it. I want. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, I just enjoyed listening to you. I can't imagine that the time is where it is. But thank you so much for
Oh,
joining us.
you're
Um,
most welcome, buddy.
and yeah, so we'll just stay on the line easily. I just want to say cheers, but for our listeners, thank you so much. Have a great enjoy Jesus today. We'll catch you next
Amen.
time. Cheers.
Cheers, dude.
All right, I'm